$38.50, the power supply.
Hello, and thanks for watching my videos. My name is Seth, and you're watching my videos on YouTube at How I Think. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video, been extremely busy, but I did take some time off to create this tutorial. So what we're going to be doing today is learning how to set up a network from the ground up. And so what that's going to entail is configuring a 3850 switch, configuring the two Cisco ASAs, the 5510 series, with two different ISP. We're also going to be enabling IP SLA. We're going to be creating our VLANs. This is a full complete network from the ground up, which is going to be a working network, and we're going to test it, and everything is going to function properly, hopefully. So for this video, I'm not going to be using any routing protocols like BGP, OSPF, or anything like that to connect. We're using static routes. We're going to keep it simple. So what's going to happen is our gateways, these are the ASAs are our gateways, and what we're going to do is on the inside interface of these ASAs, we're going to create VLAN. So there's a VLAN set up on here, which is the .11. And we're going to look at the third object here for all of them. So that's the .11 VLAN. With .1 as the gateway IP, we have .12 here with .1 IP address. So this is our gateway IP. And then on here on the on the 3850, we're going to have five different VLANs. So we're going to have .10, .20, .30, .11, and .12. We're going to have all these VLANs here and enable routing so that data can pass through accordingly. And then we're going to test bringing down one ISP, the primary, and see if the IP SLA automatically switches over to the other secondary one, ISP, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So for that, as you can see, I've set up this diagram, so for visually we have something to follow. And then I have the switch right here, the 3850 switch. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll leave both these screens up so we can see how things are progressing. Okay, so what I've done is I've created this script to kind of save on time. And we can manually go through some of this just so you can get an idea, but it'll definitely help if you have a script to kind of speed things up. So as you can see, first thing we do on 3850 is enable IP routing, which is going to enable our layer 3 functionality. And then what I'm doing the next is going through and setting up these VLANs by this command, just typing in VLAN 10, VLAN 11, and VLAN 12. And so they'll go ahead and create our VLANs for us. The next step I'm doing is going into the VLAN that we just created. So we go into all these VLANs and we give them an IP. So if you remember from our diagram, we have VLAN 11, which is the primary. So .1 is the IP address of the gateway. So .2 will be the IP address of the 3850 VLAN. It's here. And same thing here. 12.2 will be the IP address for the VLAN that's we're communicating with for the secondary, and 10.1, 20.1, and 30.1 respectively for the rest of the VLANs. If you look at the next two interfaces here, I'm taking interface 1 and interface 3, which are the first two interfaces in the top row here, and I am trunking them. The reason I trunk them is so I can take all the VLANs and pass the data forward to the respected gateways. So I'll leave this here on this end. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, down here, and so as I said, I'm going to go into the enable mode as such and type IP config IP routing to enable IP routing, and then what you do is just type in VLAN 10, VLAN 11, VLAN 12, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30. Okay, so now that we've created our VLANs, I want to check to see if our VLANs are there. So I'll do show VLAN, and that's going to show us our VLANs. So we got 10, 11, 12, 20, and 30. Okay. So the next step we're going to do is, after we created our VLANs, we're going to go ahead and go into our VLANs and give ourselves the IP. So for that, we're going to go into config mode. Okay. So I'm going to go to the first one, which is interface VLAN 11. I'm typing IP address 10.10.11.2. This is 24-bit mask, so 255, 255, 255, 0. Okay, and we're going to say no shut. And so we can do that for each one of them, or we can copy and paste this script. So I'm going to copy all this info to make it easy for us. Next thing we're going to do is go into these two interfaces and trunk them. So I can say interface gigabit interface 1, and we're going to say switchport mode trunk switchport access VLAN 12 switchport access VLAN 12. So now what I've done is I've taken this port and I've trunked it and I've made it part of VLAN 12, which we just ran this command here. I'm going to say shut. So now we can do the same thing with gigabit port 3, which is this one. So I take this, copy it, paste it, type it in. So it makes it easier. Okay, so as you can see, by doing show interface gigabit port 1 switch port, it tells us that it's in trunk mode, and it's allowing all VLANs. And the same thing with switch port 3, it's in trunk mode and it's allowing all VLANs. Okay, and then if I type in, because we're in config mode, we have to type do in order to run the show commands. So do show IP interface brief exclude unused. So it shows us all of our VLANs, the IP addresses associated with them, and the status is up. Okay, so the next step would be to add all the respective VLANs, ports to the respective VLANs. And for that, like I said, You can go into each individual, or I can just copy the script and paste it in there, which I have already done. So do show VLAN. You see the respected switches, ports in there, respected VLANs. So that's already set up for us. Now you can take this, copy and paste it in. So at this point, our generic setup is set up as completed on the switch. We're done. So the switch portion is done for now at 3850. So next would be looking at the firewalls and setting these up. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that we have the switch configured, we need to configure the ASA, because we need to set up the inside IP, the outside IP, the VLAN, then we enable a few things to make sure there's connectivity. And once we have connectivity, that means we're done with half the portion of this this drawing in the background. So let's go ahead and get into the switch. I already have the switch brought up. It's a default configuration. There's nothing on it. And the first thing we need to do is we need to create a sub interface, and we can do that multiple ways. We can either do that through the ASDM or do it through the command line. The ASDM, which as you can see I have here, I personally like to use ASDM, but for this demonstration purposes I'm going to stick with the command line. So this is the ASDM, and what we're going to do is we're going to set up a sub interface, and that sub interface will be attached to the switch in the back. So to do that, obviously Ethernet 0, I like to use that for the outside, so we're going to attach a public IP to that, and Ethernet 1, port 1 is typically what we'll use. So you can either right click and say edit and then type in all the information here, or you can say right click, add, and you can add sub Ethernet, sub interface, sorry, and that's what we need because we're going to specify the VLANs in here. So you can do it through ASDM as well. Alright, so that's that. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is get into the config mode as we are here, and then go into the interface Ethernet port 1. I'm going to say interface Ethernet 0/1 for port 1, and for a sub interface I'm going to type .11, because if we look at this, remember this is VLAN 11. Okay, so now what we need to do is specify the VLANs. We can say VLAN 11, and then we call this, we give this VLAN a name. So we're going to call this inside, and automatically sets the inside security level to 100, which means everything behind this is secure and accepted. And then we specify the IP 10.10. Remember, it's 11.1, and you can see right here 11.1 24-bit. Okay, so now that's set. Once that is set, we need to exit out, and now we need to specify the outside IP address on the outside interface. Okay, same thing. I'm going to say interface E0/0. Okay, name if outside, and as you can see, it automatically sets that to 0. Then IP address Okay, once we do that, we need to specify the routes, how we're going to have the traffic go in and out. So for that we type in route outside and want everything. Okay. We also need to create another one for route inside, so all the traffic that's being routed on the internal. So what are the traffic that's being routed on the internal by the firewall? Well, we have everything is behind the 1010 hex, right? So that's 16-bit. So we're going to say 10 10 0 0 255 255 0 0. And what do we want? What device do we want the to route this traffic? Well, the ASA is going to hand this data off to the switch, the layer 3 switch here. And if we remember, if 11.1 was the IP address for here, 11.2 was the IP that we set up, right? Show interface IP brief. Show interface brief. See that? For VLAN, that's the IP 11.2. So 10 10 11.2 will take care of the routing on the inside. Alright, so once we do that, then we need to specify NAT objects, which devices have access, subnets have access to the internet. And because this is the newer firmware, we have to use the NAT inside outside command. But first we need to create an object. So for that, what I have to do is I type in object network, and I'll call this one object 10.10.11.0. And here, let's see, subnet 10.10.11.0 NAT inside outside dynamic interface. Why doesn't it like it? Oh, because I have a space, maybe? Yes, okay, I had a space. Okay, so now that's created, and now we have to go and do that for all the other subnets. So we'll do the same thing here, and this is going to be for 12.0. .0. And 20.0. And 30.0. So if I exit and say do show run net, show run net, there we go. So I have now all my NAT devices set up. Okay, so if you remember, I said we have to enable the interface. E0 slash, oops, interface E0 slash 1, no shut, exit, exit, 95 ping, 8.8.8.8. There we go. So we have internet connectivity now. Let's see. So now if we come here, say ping 8.8.8.8, and sources from VLAN 11. Oh, you know what? I think the firewall might be blocking it. Let me check that. Let me check this. Make sure that's not the case. Okay. I'm just gonna do it through the ASDM and just quickly show you. I'm not sure why. When it comes to firewalls, policy, policies right here. Double click it. We're gonna go to rules. We're gonna choose ICMP. We're gonna hit OK. We're gonna hit apply. We're gonna hit save. It's a lot quicker than trying to figure out the command for it. Move over. Exit. And here we have, okay, it's added now. So now if we do ping, source of VLAN, yay, success. The switch is set up now. Switch is set up, and if I say VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30, yay. Okay, so we set up the switch and the firewall correctly. We're all ready to go now. Okay, so the switch is now configured, and this is how you set up a 3850 with VLANs and configure it to go out to the internet using Cisco ASA, which we did, and we did an excellent job, might I add. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, what's left? Well, what's left is this portion of it, which is the IP SLA. How do we set that up? Well, we're going to have to do the exact same thing on the other firewall, set up interfaces, go through the same routine, and then enable the IP SLA command. Okay, so now we are on the second firewall. We need to configure this one. Remember, we did the first one, now we do the second one, because we need to do IP SLA. So we're going to go through the same steps. So instead of typing everything from the ground up, I copied and pasted the config from the other file and just changed the IP address and the VLAN for the sub interface. Remember, the other sub interface was VLAN 11, or named after VLAN 11. We're going to name the sub interface after VLAN 12. I'm going to go into the config and just paste the file here rather than redoing everything, and just recreates everything for us, because remember, everything else is the same. Okay. We're going to save the configuration. Alright. Okay. And I'm going to ping 8.8.8.8. And we have success. Okay. Now remember this switch. I want to make sure that we still have connectivity. So in order for me to test connectivity from VLAN 12 to make sure that it has access, so I'm going to say ping 8.8.8.8 source VLAN 12, and now we have connectivity from VLAN 12 as well. So this switch is now set up perfectly. So now we have two firewalls. We have two firewalls set up on two separate ISPs, and the inside interfaces are set up. The switch itself is set up. All the VLANs are set up.